All right, today we're on Module 4, Lesson 5, and we're going to look at multiplying fractions by fractions. So previously we've learned about multiplying fractions times whole numbers, and that's what's happening in this first problem. Jan has 4 pans of Rice Krispie treats. She sends half of the pans to school with her children. How many pans does she send to school? Now most of you are probably just doing that in your head, but let's do it 2 other ways. Let's think she's got 4 pans. Okay. And she wants to send half of them to school. Half means I'm dividing it into 2 parts. So I got to divide these in half. So how many pans does she send to school? Well, she sends these and these. 2 pans. 1/2 of all the pans, but it's 2 pans. We also could have done that the way we learned, where it's 1/2 of the pans. That means 1/2 times the pans. She's got 4 pans. I can give 4 a denominator of 1 because it's a whole number. Multiply across, 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2. I know this means divided by, well 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that one was pretty easy. But what happens if she has just 1 pan? So this time let's imagine that she has 1 pan and she sends half of the pan to school. What's that look like now? Well, she's got the 1 pan of brownies, okay, and she sends half of it, so we're going to make halves. 2 parts means I got half. She sends half of it, 1/2 of it, sends this much. So that's how many pans she sends, 1/2 pan. So just to recap, when she had 4 pans and she sent half of them, so 1/2 of 4, that was 2. And then when she had half of 1, that was 1/2. Well, what's going to happen if she's starting out with half a pan and she's sending half of that to school? Let's look at what that would actually look like. So here's like a whole pan of brownies. And all she has is this side. You know, this guy's it, is half a pan. And she wants to send half of that. So let's just cut that half in half. There's a little funny dotted cut. So she's sending half of the half. Okay. So this was the half pan she started with, not a whole pan, half a pan, and she's only sending half of that, which is here. Just looking at the picture, how much of the whole pan are we talking about? Well, now we see 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and she's sending 1 of those. So half of half, I'm going to use an X instead of because we know of means times. Half of half equals 1/4. Okay? And in fact, I want to write these ones here. 1/2 times 2, times 4 equals 2, and 1/2 times 1 equals, obviously, 1/2, and 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. Well, I know that when I've got a whole number, I multiply across, right? So this would be 1 times 4 is 4, over 2 is 2. Multiplying across. Well, what did I do here? I mean, I know we drew a picture, but what does that actually look like in just numbers? Well, what if we multiply across? 1 times 1 equals 1. 2 times 2 equals 4. So when we're multiplying a fraction times a fraction, it's really just the same as when we're multiplying a fraction times a whole number, right? We just multiply across. And you can see here why that works. Let's try another example. Okay, so this time we have a very similar problem. Let's read it. Jan has 1/3 of a pan of Rice Krispie treats. She sends 1/2 of the pan to school with her children. how much of the pan does she send? So this again will be pretty easy to draw a picture of. Here's our pan of Rice Krispie treats. But she does not have a whole pan. She just has a third of a pan. So I divided it into 3, and this is how much of the pan she has. She doesn't have the whole thing. Okay. I guess she ate the other 2/3. I don't know. But she's only going to send half of what she has to school. And I'm sorry, I actually mistyped this. This says half of the pan. It should be half of the treats, right? Because she can't send half the pan if she only has 1/3 of the pan, half the treats. So this is how much she has, and she's going to only send this much to school, which makes total sense. She wants to eat the rest. So how much of the whole pan does she have? Okay, she had a third, and she sent a half of that third. How much is that compared to the whole pan? We'll just bring this line across so that we can see how big these sections are that we made. How many sections do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've made 6. And what's the red part? How many sixths is it? It's 1/6. Okay? So 1/2 of, which means times, 1/3 of the pan equals, multiply across, 1/6. 1/6 of the pan of Rice Krispie treats she sends to school. Let's look at one more version of this. Now Jan has 3/5 of a pan of Rice Krispie treats, and she sends 1/3 of what she has to school. How much of a pan does she send? Well, let's try again with our little diagram. Here's the whole pan. How much of the pan does she have at the beginning? 3/5. So I need to divide this into fifths. Ta-da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. And so she has 3/5. That's what I need to be clear on. So let's count it across 3. 1, 2, 3. This, that I'm going to give a dark outline, this is how much of the pan she has. And she's going to send 1/3 of what she has to school. So I have to look at this part she has and divide it into thirds. But when I divide it, I'm going to cut through that part of the pan that was empty, basically. This part, over here, it's gone that she ate. Okay? So she sends 1/3. I made thirds, but she's only sending 1/3 to school. Okay, so this is the part that she sent. The red outline is how much she had to begin with, and this blue is what she sent to school. So the question is, how much of a pan does she send? We know she sent 1/3 of what she had, but what does that represent out of the whole thing? So we have to count these boxes that we divided the whole pan into. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've made 15ths here. And she sent 1, 2, 3 of the 15ths. We can actually go ahead and reduce that fraction because I know I can divide top and bottom by 3 and I'll get 1/5. So my answer is she sent 1/5 of a pan. If I wanted to do this with math, I would simply say she sent 1/3 of her 3/5. 1/3 of 3/5. That's 1/3 times 3/5. And fraction multiplication is so easy. I just multiply across. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 3/15, which I will reduce to 1/5. 1/5 of this pan is how much she sent. All right, let's look at one more problem to show this multiplying fractions by fractions deal. This one's a little bit confusing, just figuring out what the problem means, so bear with me. Let's read it. Milan puts 1/4 of her lawn mowing money in savings and uses 1/2 of the remaining money to pay back her sister. If she has $15 left, how much money did she start with? Oof, a lot of information going in there. So there's this kid Milan, I guess is her name. She mowed some lawns and earned some money. She put some of her money in savings, and half of the other money that she didn't put in savings, she's going to give to her sister. It says pay her back. We don't know what she's paying her back for, but she owes money to her sister. If she had $15 at the end, how much did she start with? Oof, that's a lot. Whenever we're confused in a word problem, you know we really need to draw some sort of diagram. What they're asking is how much did she start with? So let's draw that out. Imagine this is the money that she started with. Ooh, it's a tape diagram. Okay? So this is what we want to know. We don't know what it is. What happened is that she put a quarter of her lawn mowing money in savings. So we got to show a quarter here to know what that is. We got to show a fourth. So I'm going to make some fourths. Okay? And this part, the red part here, this is what she put in savings. It's gone. So the red part there's gone, and half of what's left she gives to her sister. So let's just kind of imagine this part here, this part. We're going to make its own box. Half of this, cut it in half. Half of it she gives to her sister. If she has $15 left. So she gives half to her sister. What's left here is 15. Okay? So what's the whole amount? How much did she give her sister? Well, this is 15. That's 15. This whole chunk must be 30. So this chunk that we identified here, this has to be 30. Okay? I've got 1, 2, 3 boxes here. And I know altogether those 3 are $30. What do you think each box is? Okay, if you said 10, you're a smarty pants. Because look, 10 plus 10 plus 10, that's going to be 30. So what's the red box? Yep, it's also got to be 10, right? Because these are fourths, they're all equal. But let's remember what they're asking us. How much money did she start with? This whole amount, this question mark. How much is all of her money? Well, 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 equals $40. She started with $40. Okay. The more mathy way that we could have done that, well, the more mathy way, it would actually be enormously complicated. So this is one where figuring it out with our diagram here was really the right way to go. But we should always check if our answer is reasonable. So let's take this $40 and kind of walk through the story and see if it makes sense. Okay, so she's got $40. This is what she made from lawn mowing. She's going to put a fourth of that in savings. Okay, hold on, I'm going to just move this up so we have some room. Just move that away. Okay, so she's got the $40, and it says she put a fourth of her money in savings. So let's find 1/4 of 40. Divided by 4, I know is 10. So she put $10 in savings. Save. What a good girl. And uses half of the remaining money to pay back her sister. Okay? So the remaining money is what she still has after the 10 that she put in savings. So she's still got $30. She's going to take half of that, half of 30. 30 divided by 2, I know is 15. And she's going to give that to her sister. So she's given away 10 here to savings. And now she's going to give 15 to her sister. And look, she's got $15 left. Okay? So we used, a diagram here to figure it out, but then we used all this nice multiplication that we know to check our answer. That's always a really great thing to go back and see with a word problem if the answer you got makes sense within your story. Great, I think you're ready to try your own practice set. Just remember, fractions times fractions is just like fractions times whole numbers. Okay? You're just multiplying straight across. 1/2 times 1/4 equals 1/8.